We'll call the regular meeting of the Upshur County Commission to order. We'll begin with a moment of silent meditation and prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time we have the minutes from November 1st, 8th, 15th, and 21st. So, Jackie, you've got a lot of reading to do today.
All right, November 1st, the County Commission of Upshur County, West Virginia, held their regular meeting at the Courthouse Annex on Thursday, November 1, 2012 at 9 a.m. Donnie Tenney called the meeting to order. There were present Donnie Tenney, Commissioner, Creed Pletcher, Commissioner, J.C. Rafferty, Commissioner, William Parker, County Administrator, Megan Pomeroy, Assistant County Administrator. The meeting began with a moment of silent meditation and prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. All motion passed unanimously unless otherwise stated. Minutes for the October 25, 2012 meeting of the Upshur County Commission were available and will be placed on next week's agenda for approval. Agenda item number 1, the approval of the Upshur County financial statement for fiscal year ended June 2012, was not ready for action at this time and will be placed on a future agenda. After discussion on motion by Creed Pletcher, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the Commission approved the employment of William Shannon and Margaret Wiltshire as early voting clerks at the rate of $7.25 per hour effective October 31, 2012 through November 3, 2012, as requested by Debbie Thacker Wilfong, Upshur County Clerk. After discussion on motion by J.C. Rafferty, seconded by Creed Pletcher, the Commission approved and authorized the President to sign the engagement letter with the State of West Virginia, Office of the State Auditor for audit services for fiscal year ended June 30, 2012. After discussion on motion by Creed Pletcher, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the Commission approved David Wellman as volunteer for the Lewis Upshur Local Emergency Planning Committee, and Deborah Groggs, Mary Albaugh, Arlene Smith, and Christy Bush as volunteers for the Office of Emergency Management, CERT. After discussion on motion by Creed Pletcher, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the Commission approved and authorized the President to sign the project completion certification report for reimbursement from FEMA in the amount of $10,727.03 for Federal Domestic Assistance Disaster, FEMA 4071-DR-WV. Debbie Thacker Wilfong, Upshur County Clerk, appeared before the Commission, provided an update/status report on election/voting concerns due to the recent and ongoing power outage emergency from the storm Hurricane Sandy weather event. Ms. Wilfong provided a handout listing some of the problems and possible solutions. Ms. Wilfong had been in communication with state officials concerning contingency plans in the event of continued problems. Major areas of concern are polling location and the availability of poll workers. Polling locations may continue to be without power and may need to be relocated. In addition, poll workers may not be able to fulfill their duties due to being stranded. Ms. Wilfong expressed concerns about timely communication of information to the public. After discussion per general consent, the Commission approved to meet on Sunday, November 5 at the Office of Emergency Management, Emergency Operations Center at 3 p.m. to review and assess power restoration progress. The Commission reviewed the following for your information items. Number 1, information from National Association of Counties and the County Commissioners Association of West Virginia, Federal Budget Sequestration 101, Perspectives through the County Lens. Number 2, correspondence from the County Commissioners Association of West Virginia. regarding additional training conference, regional meeting agenda and schedule. Number 3, correspondence from the West Virginia Ethics Commission about West Virginia Act's prohibited interest in public contract. West Virginia Ethics Commission's how to seek a contract exemption. West Virginia Ethics Commission public contract provisions governing county officials and county school systems. Number 4, employee wage information, workers' compensation classification codes. Number 5, state of emergency proclamation issued by the governor. Discussion. Number 6, state of emergency declaration issued by the county commission. Discussion. Number 7, agendas and/or notices of meetings as listed. Number 5, meeting minutes and/or financial reports as listed. Number 9, meetings as listed. Number 10, appointments needed or upcoming as listed. The commission approved all invoices for payment. The commission approved all vacation orders. The commission approved the following settlements as listed. The commission approved the following exonerations and/or refunds as listed. The commission approved the following requests to attend meetings for commission employees as listed. Steve Foster, Upshur County Development Authority representative, appeared before the commission and provided an update/status report on a potential housing development opportunity. After discussion, the commission advised Mr. Foster to ask the developer to meet with the commission and provide further information. The commission recessed at 11:30 a.m. The commission reconvened at 1 p.m. at the E911 Communications Center and met with Governor Earl Ray Tomblin, Senator Joe Manchin, West Virginia National Guard representatives, FEMA representatives, and local emergency management personnel to review storm-related issues. The commission recessed at 2:30 p.m. The commission reconvened at 3 p.m. at the Upshur County Courthouse Annex. The commission met with elected officials Jacob Rieger, prosecuting attorney, Debbie Thacker Wilfong, county clerk, Brian Gaudet, circuit clerk, Helen Phillips, assessor, and Virgil Miller, sheriff, to discuss employee payroll issues because of storm-related absences. After discussion on 2 separate motions by Creed Pletcher, seconded by Donnie Tenney, the commission directed that employees would need to utilize a vacation day for Tuesday, October 30, 2012, and/or a vacation day for Wednesday, October 31, 2012, if unable to get to work location and/or did not report to assigned work location, and the employee desired to receive 40 hours of compensation for the work per specified guidelines. The note is with Tuesday, October 30, 2012. Pletcher and Tenney for motion. Rafferty against. Wednesday, October 31, 2012. All for the motion. With no further business, on motion by Creed Pletcher, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the commission meeting adjourned at 4:05 p.m.
A motion to approve the minutes is read.
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments? Not all in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Continue on, Jackie.
November 8th, the County Commission of Upshur County, West Virginia, held a regular meeting at the Courthouse Annex on Thursday, November 8, 2012, at 9 a.m. Donnie Tenney called the meeting to order. There were present Donnie Tenney, Commissioner, Creed Pletcher, Commissioner, J.C. Rafferty, Commissioner, William Parker, County Administrator, Megan Pomeroy, Assistant County Administrator, and Jacqueline Dinklocker, Secretary. The meeting began with a moment of silent meditation, prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. All motions passed unanimously unless otherwise stated. After reading of the minutes, on motion by J.C. Rafferty, seconded by Creed Pletcher, the Commission approved the regular meeting minutes of October 25, 2012 with typographical corrections. Minutes for the November 1, 2012 meeting of the Upshur County Commission were unavailable and will be placed on next week's agenda for approval. Agenda item number 1, the approval of Upshur County financial statement for fiscal year ended June 2012 was not ready for action at this time and will be placed on future agenda. After discussion on motion by Creed Pletcher, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the Commission approved the request from Joyce Harris Thacker, Upshur County Family Resource Network Director, to provide payroll services for temporary part-time substance abuse prevention grant employee Amanda Hayes, as discussed at October 25, 2012 County Commission meeting, at the rate of $10 per hour effective November 8, 2012. Payments will be reimbursed by grant funds. The Commission discussed the state of emergency declaration. James Farrell, Office of Emergency Management Administrative Assistant, provided an update/status report on power outages and storm damage recovery efforts. Power still has not been restored to over 3,500 Upshur County residents, and emergency shelters are still providing services. By general consent, the Commission agreed to leave the state of emergency declaration in place at this time. The County Commission discussed the meeting, which took place on Sunday, November 4, 2012, concerning the relocation of voting precincts due to pending adverse conditions of November 6, 2012 general election. The meeting included representatives from various agencies. After discussion on motion by J.C. Rafferty, second by Creed Pletcher, the Commission approved the relocation of precincts still without power as discussed at the November 4 meeting. Voting precincts 25, 27A, and 27L were relocated from French Creek Elementary School to the West Virginia National Guard Armory in Tennerton. Precinct number 4 relocated to Rock Cave Elementary School in Arlington. Official action was taken for the purpose of adherence to the West Virginia Code and retroactive to November 6, 2012. The Commission discussed board appointments needed or upcoming. William Parker was requested to follow up and report back at a future meeting. At 9:40 a.m. on motion by Creed Pletcher, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the Commission entered executive session per West Virginia Code 6-9A-4 to discuss matters concerning the approval of a community proclamation. Present were Donnie Tenney, Creed Pletcher, J.C. Rafferty, William Parker, and Megan Pomeroy. The Commission returned to open session at 10:05 a.m. Action taken during executive session will be announced at a future meeting. The Commission reviewed the following for your information items. Number 1, building permit report, October 2012. Number 2, Upshur County E911 Communication Center reports as listed. Number 3, agendas and/or notices of meetings as listed. Number 4, meeting minutes and/or financial reports. There were none. Number 5, meetings as listed. Number 6, appointments needed or upcoming as listed. The Commission approved all invoices for payment. The Commission approved all vacation orders. The Commission approved the following settlements as listed. The Commission approved the following exonerations and/or refunds as listed. Joy Layton, Red Clay Development of West Virginia, LLC representative, appeared before the Commission and provided an update/status report on a potential housing development opportunity. Mr. Layton's company is researching the feasibility of constructing a development featuring townhouse units for tenants with specific income levels. The Commission recessed at 11:30 a.m. The Commission attended the meeting of the Upshur County Policy Board at 1 p.m. The Commission attended the meeting of the Upshur County Departmental Supervisors at 2:10 p.m. The Commission reconvened at 3:20 p.m. Terry Jo Bennett, addressing a mapping coordinator, appeared before the Commission, provided an update/status report on the progress of address conversions. Ms. Bennett also reviewed a proposal from Landmark Forestry to scan all completed proof of physical address applications and application for physical address applications that have been released. The cost of the scanning project is approximately $3,000 and will be useful for identifying errors on edit sheets for the remaining postal conversions, Upshur County web hosting site, and the Upshur County Assessor's Office. Landmark Forestry will have the scan project completed within 1 week. After discussion on motion by Creed Pletcher, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the Commission approved and authorized the President to sign the proposal. James Bryson Van Nostrand appeared before the Commission to review cost allocation for the E91 building as discussed at the July 26, 2012 meeting of the Upshur County Commission. Additional services were required after completion of the structure. The Commission will process a payment of $11,300. William Parker was requested to follow up with Mr. Van Nostrand. With no further business, on motion by Creed Pletcher, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the Commission meeting adjourned at 5:15 p.m.
We have a motion to approve the minutes as read.
No.
There's a little problem with the last paragraph, or the next to last paragraph on page 1. Voting precinct number 25, 27A, and 27L relocated from French Creek Elementary School to West Virginia National Guard Armory Tennerton. Precinct number 4 relocated to Rock Cave Elementary School, Arlington.
And that should be the Arlington precinct to Rock Cave.
Right. Right.
Sorry about that.
Good eye, Creed. Good eye. Is that a second now?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Next.
November 15, 2012, the County Commission of Upshur County, West Virginia, held their regular meeting at the Courthouse Annex on Thursday, November 15, 2012 at 9 a.m. Donnie Taney called the meeting to order. There were present Donnie Taney, Commissioner, Creed Pletcher, Commissioner, J.C. Rafferty, Commissioner, William Parker, County Administrator, Megan Pomeroy, Assistant County Administrator, and Jacqueline Dinklocker, Secretary. The meeting began with a moment of silent meditation and prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. All motions passed unanimously unless otherwise stated. Minutes for the regular meetings of the Upshur County Commission on November 1, 2012 and November 8, 2012 were unavailable and will be placed on the next scheduled meeting, December 6, 2012, agenda for approval. William Parker provided a status report on the purchase of a 2013 Ford Taurus for the Upshur County Sheriff's Department. The replacement vehicle will be purchased in accordance to state contract requirements. After discussion on motion by Creed Pletcher, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the Commission approved and authorized the President to sign any and all documentation related to the purchase in the amount of not more than $32,000. William Parker reviewed the request from Beth Burkhart, Tri-County Child Invitation Program Coordinator, for approval of the change of employment status of Judith Piercy from monitor to site supervisor with an effective date of October 22, 2012, at the rate of $8 per hour. After discussion on motion by J.C. Rafferty, seconded by Creed Pletcher, the Commission approved the request. The Commission reviewed the state of emergency declaration. Power has been restored to all areas except for isolated instances which would be considered a normal standard. Red Cross and emergency agencies have left, and most operations are back to normal. After discussion on motion by J.C. Rafferty, seconded by Creed Pletcher, the Commission authorized the President to consult and sign a notice of termination for the state of emergency as determined appropriate by the President. The Commission reviewed the following for your information items. Number 1, Dog Warden Report, October 2012. Number 2, Notice of Suddenlink Communications Rate Increase. Number 3, Agendas and/or Notice of Meetings as listed. Number 4, Meeting Minutes and/or Financial Reports. There were none. Number 5, Meetings as listed. Number 6, Appointments needed or upcoming as listed. The Commission approved all invoices for payment. The Commission approved all vacation orders. The Commission approved the following settlements as listed. The Commission approved the following requests to attend meetings as listed. The Commission recessed at 11:15 a.m. The Commission reconvened at 12:15 p.m. And with no further business, on motion by Creed Pletcher, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the Commission meeting adjourned at 12:30 p.m.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as read?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
How are we doing on the board? I see some are still vacant and we haven't filled those yet.
Well, we can check with
Yeah, Alicia's tried to make contact with some people, and it's been difficult to get some of them to respond.
well, maybe that's something we need to talk about after a while. If there's some that on the
It's been
some of
6
the
months
boards.
past the fact, though. It's about time we get a response.
And if we don't get a response, then maybe we need to look at other people that have a desire to be on the boards. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay.
November 21, 2012. The County Commission of Upshur County, West Virginia held a special meeting at the Courthouse Annex on Wednesday, November 21 at 10:30 a.m. for the certification of election results. Donnie Tenney called the meeting to order. There were present Donnie Tenney, Commissioner, Cree Pletcher, Commissioner, J.C. Rafferty, Commissioner, William Parker, County Administrator, Megan Pomeroy, Assistant County Administrator. William Parker reviewed the results of the general election of November 6, 2012. After discussion on motion by Creed Pletcher, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the Commission approved and authorized the Commission to sign the election certification. With no further business, on motion by Creed Pletcher, seconded by J.C. Rafferty, the Commission meeting adjourned at 10:35 a.m.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as read?
So moved.
Any questions or comments? Not, all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thank you, Jackie. Okay, we have Mr. John Bowers, Upshur County resident and auctioneer. Public announcement regarding upcoming benefit auction. Morning, John.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you gentlemen?
Good.
Fantastic.
What's that?
Fantastic.
I heard you. I know what you mean. Thank you for giving me an audience here this morning. Thank you, Mr. Parker, for arranging that. As usual, you do your excellent job. Mr. Skinner, you want to join me up here?
You can probably take care of this by yourself, don't
I think he wants you to stand up so there'll be a pretty face to the voice.
Okay.
Or maybe not.
Or maybe not. Okay.
We've got a benefit auction coming up for a little gal here in the county. It's 13 years old and she's got cancer. Her name is Tiffany Ross. I'll give you a little background on her. I'll give you, Mr. Parker comes back there. Maybe. Can you reach out? Let them see those. And I hope to get 3 of these. I don't know if they are or not. Anyway, we got it's coming up Sunday at the National Guard Armory on Route 20 south of Buchanan. And I've never seen such an outpouring of love and generosity in it as it has been for this. And I hope that, I'd like to invite you up for one thing. I'd like for you all to come up, bring your checkbooks. If you can't bring your checkbooks, just send the checks up and we'll buy you something. And but come up and see us. They're going to have a luncheon at 12, starts at 12 o'clock. Of course, it'll continue all day, but it starts at 12 o'clock, and at 1 o'clock we start the auction. We've really got a lot of stuff. You can go on Tiffany.auction on Facebook, and there's about 200 maybe by now, pictures posted of things that we've got up there. We've got cars and antiques and guns and crafts and everything. Be a really good place to Christmas shop. And it's for a really good cause. This little girl's 13 years old. I'll give you some background on her. Her grandmother on her father's side is Margaret Kelly. Her dad's name is Don Ross, and her mother family is Denzel and Joanne Bly, and her mother's name is Kathy. And they're just wonderful people. They've always worked hard and contributed to the community and everything. And that's one of the things that Skinner and I look at before we do this is the need and the desire and everything. She's going to spend 7 weeks in the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And it's going to be a pretty expensive 7 weeks because she can't stay in the housing and stuff that's for the regular hospital. And she's going to have what they call proton radiation therapy. I hope I'm right on that. But I think that is what it is. And what that does is that they single out that cancer cell and touch that cancer cell, and it's in her back. Her cancer's in her back, and it's in the 11th vertebrae. And that's what they're trying to do, is eliminate her from having back surgery and having that vertebrae removed. I met her Wednesday. Terry helped me a little bit this Wednesday a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago now.
2 weeks ago, and 5 minutes after I met her, I said, "We got to do this." She's just a brilliant little girl, and she's just a beautiful little girl, just a sweetheart. And what won me over, I said, I was talking to her, and I said, "Do you do good in school?" And she said, "Well, I make good grades, but my sister's a straight A student, but she studies all the time, and I've got a horse and a dirt bike, and I said, that's my girl right there. That's the one I want to, that's the girl. And she's, you can see the pictures there. You'll see her on her dirt bike, I think, and you'll see the picture of her horse and everything. And we've really, things are really coming together for her. We're going to have a terrific auction. Joe up to the Armory yesterday said, I got 750 chairs and I've made arrangements if we need 250 more. He said, do you think that'll be enough? And I said, I don't know, Joe. I don't know. Everybody we've talked to, you know, wants to come and help, and it's just really been a great thing. But we still need stuff. Anyone wants to donate anything, they'll call me or call Mr. Skinner. We'll send someone to pick it up and see it gets up there and gets sold. I've got a good bank of auctioneers backing me up. My son John's coming from Parsons, and Mike Holden's coming over from Weston, and Charlie Smith's coming up from down Napier. Don Morrison's coming over from Marlington. I don't know who else, but we've got a good bunch of boys up there going to sell.
If one of you guys want to come up and sell an item or two, you're more than welcome to come up and sell it.
Now wait a minute, that's my shot.
But I overrode you on this one, John.
Yeah, if you want to come up, I guarantee you we can put you to work. We'll find something to do. Yeah, we'll let you sell.
John,
We'll let you sell
fast
something.
talkers, every one of them.
Yeah, we'll let you sell something if you want to come up. But anyway, we're going to have we've got a lot of stuff. It's going to be a great day. And we've got a beautiful, if someone needs a car, they got a beautiful little 2007 Chrysler PT Cruiser. Oh, it's just a honey of a little car. And they got it's 2007. I think one of the other cars is a 2000 Pontiac Grand Prix. I think I'm right on that year model. I may not be. But it's a nice car. They just went through it, put new tires on it, brakes, exhaust, and all that kind of stuff on it. It'd be a nice ride for somebody looking for something to go to work, or just a second car or something, or a car for a kid in school or something. And then we've got a Dodge 3/4 ton truck, and I don't remember the year model on it. Mr. Mike Ross donated it to us, and we've got guns. Terry, you think of anything? Well, anyway, the CEO girls, I called them, and I said, you guys need an auctioneer. And they said, yeah. And I said, well, here's how you get one. Depends on how many cakes and pies and candies this shows up there. Depends on how good auctioneer you get. So they said that they would need probably 6 or 8 tables for that stuff. And we're just really excited about this thing. And this little girl, if you'll meet her in 5 minutes, she'll win your heart. She's just a precious little thing.
She was planning on coming today, but she just
she just spent 5 days in Morgantown, and they brought her home yesterday. And I think, the chemo and all that stuff kind of maybe a little bit stressful on her. But we'd be glad to have you guys up. And my wife said, do you think the commissioners will come? And I said, well, they've always been awful good to us down there. They've been good to help and everything. But I said, the nice part about it is they got free television coverage. That's what.
That's right.
So that's that. But we'd really like to make this thing a big deal for this gal and help her get along, because it's going to be expensive. It's going to take a lot of money for this 7 weeks up there, and she's going to be a long ways from home and family and friends and stuff at
When does she?
Christmas time. And
I was gonna say, when does she go up to Philadelphia?
I think
January
she
7th, I think. Yes.
No, I thought she left on Monday after we do the auction.
I don't know, things change. I don't know. Last word I had, it was January 7th. but
Well, you're probably right. I don't always pay attention to some of that kind of things. It's so
And we're also going to have a donation tree. I don't know. There's a couple other 13-year-old kids in the county that we had no clue until the day before yesterday. I know there's something going on, that so many of the young kids now are ending up with cancer. There's something happening, But anyway, there's a George boy and a, forgive me, Lord, I can't remember what the other one's name is. We just heard about it yesterday. We're going to have a donation tree tomorrow. No, not tomorrow, Saturday at the Christmas. Santa's going to be at Bill Kelly's on Saturday from 1 to 5. And we'll have a donation tree there. Then we're going to move that tree to the Armory on Sunday. And you can clip $1 or $5 or whatever you want to, and this money will also go to the 3 kids. And so just praise the Lord and help us. That's
Yeah.
all we can, we need help. These kids need help. John and I don't need any help.
No, we get along all right on
We
our
get
own.
along by ourselves, but these
We can go to the
kids,
restaurant and get thrown out without any help at all. So we
help us help them.
help us to help them, is right. If you can't give us anything and you can't come, well, just say a prayer for them.
Yeah.
That's all we ask. And come up, and it's a free will offering on the lunch, and Jackie Bailey and I understand and her family are doing all that, and it'll be a great lunch. So get up Sunday morning, go to church, come on up. If you got something you want to bring along, bring it right along. We're asking for. Someone said, "What's the guidelines?" I said, "If you're sitting in that auction, and you'd say, I'll give $10 to help that girl, we'll take your item." And so come up after church and have lunch with those gals, and then 1 o'clock we're going to start the auction. I'll probably go to the block about 1:45. I've got some announcements to make, and probably go get in trouble because I can't thank everybody that's helped. But we're going to do the best we can do, and we're going to have a good time. The reason we're doing it on Sunday, I don't normally like to work on Sunday, especially after I work tonight, tomorrow night, Saturday night, and then go in there on Sunday and have to work. But the reason we're doing that is I don't have any other time. It's the only time I've got. I'm booked solid till Christmas, and we want to get this done before this little girl has to go to Philadelphia, so she'll have the money.
Well,
If anyone would like to send her a check, make the check to Tiffany Ross, and you call us, we'll come pick the check up, whatever it takes. Of course, when we get there, we're liable to pick the dog up and take him and sell him or something. By the way, we do have some dogs, don't we?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we got some plot hounds.
Plot hounds or something.
Yeah, some kind of dog.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of, but we'll pass them off as good ones anyway. And so come up and we'll sell you a dog. You're going to bring me something.
I'll bring you something.
Okay. All right.
I'll bring you Borgie.
Huh?
I'll bring you Borgie.
Hey, John.
That may be a tough one.
Hey, John. Why is it that everybody you talk to, you offer to buy their dinner and you haven't,
Because these guys will take me up on it.
He knows better than to offer us.
My wife, that's what my wife said to me the other day. She said, you've told everybody that come on up Sunday and I'll pay for your dinner. What if they show up? I said, just stay in the other end of the armory. It'll be all right. Don't worry about it. But you will get a good luncheon. Now, I promise you'll have a good luncheon, and we'll have something for everybody. If nothing else, you can buy you an apple pie or a cake or something to take home. And Betty Osborne,
Yeah.
all three of you, I'm sure do. She called me the other day and she said, "John boy," I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I'm going to make you a big plate of candy and a big cake." And I said, "Honey, the Lord will reward you for that." And she said, "I'll be up there Sunday morning." And I said, "All right." She said, "I'm not going to tell this. I might get in trouble, but I've been in trouble for her before." But she's 81 years old, and she's got a heart big as West Virginia. And so we're looking for a good time, and we're gonna liven that armory up. I'll guarantee you that. I told Mr. Dan Nesbitt, I said, he's my sound man, and I said I need. We want to hear in there, and he said, "I'll blow in there, and they'll be able to hear us." I said, "That's what we want to hear." So, if you get a chance, come up. If you'd like one of these, I'll give you one. We'll be glad to give you. You got them, okay? And I'd like to invite the press up and television stations. I see 12's back there now. We'd be glad to have you. And if you'd like to interview us, we'll interview with you, or we'll do anything we can to help Miss Tiffany, because she's a sweetheart. I was hoping she could come this morning, but there's just things that it's not possible sometimes. Her mother's sick. Her mother's got a bad cold, and Tiffany traveled all day yesterday and went through 5 days of hospitals, and you know what that's like. It's not a pleasant situation. But if you see anyone, use a 6-foot rule. If you get within 6 foot of someone, tell them we're having an auction and invite them up, and we'll treat them so many different ways. They'll like one of them.
John, we applaud you and Bill for all the work you've done for not only this young lady, but the other children you've helped in your families.
We want to keep Colton's memory alive. And Colton was a special man.
They do tell
But
us.
if anyone needs help, if they need help, if they'll get a hold of Bill, I call him Terry most of the time. If they'll get a hold of him or they'll get a hold of us, we'll be glad to talk to them. We're both retired, and we'll help any way we can help on something like this.
One quick last thing, the one thing that hurt me the worst to do this was after we got done with Colton's benefit, I divorced him. I said, John, I'm divorcing you, you'll get the papers Monday. And I had to call him the other day and say, honey, would you marry me one more time? Didn't I actually say that?
That took a lot, didn't it?
That hurt me bad,
Yeah.
but it's been worth it.
Yeah, I tell you what, it was the nicest divorce I ever saw. It was a pleasure for me.
You enjoyed it as long as it lasted, right?
Yeah. Well, come up and see us. My son has to work all night Sunday night, and I said, I guess I won't see you Sunday. And he said, oh yeah, I'll be there. He said, you need me to push merchandise and help you with the bid calling and stuff. He said, I'll be there. And I said, well, you got to work all night. He said, that's all right. We'll make her. Don't you worry about us. So, and I said, I was talking to Mr. Morrison, a friend of mine over in Parsons, and I said, or not Parsons, but Marlington, and I said, we're doing this thing for this little girl. He said, you use an old country auctioneer? And I said, I sure could. He said, I'll be there. Mike Holden from Weston called me and said, you didn't contact me about the auction. I said, didn't figure I had to. He said, well, that's right, I'll be over. And so we're all excited about it. We're gonna have a really good time, and it'll be a nice after Sunday. Be a nice way to spend a Sunday afternoon. And we'll try to get you out there. I think we're looking at probably the way things stand right now. I'm probably thinking we'll move through it in about. I'd like to say 4 hours, but might take a little longer than that. But anyway, come up and spend the day with us. And
Okay.
Amanda, you and Chris, bring your friend there. You guys come up.
They're not friends, they're competitors.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Just the Intermountain Man? All right. You guys come up and spend the day with us. Jackie, you come up and spend the day with me. We'll be glad to have you. I've talked to Jackie a lot of times on the phone. Today's the first time I had the privilege of meeting her.
Yeah.
And today's the first time I got to meet Megan. And I'm telling you, the assistant administrator is looking better. Things are looking up in that office.
Well, we didn't have any way but go but up compared to Willie.
Now,
Thank you, John.
I'll tell you one thing. Now, you can say a lot of things, but you can't say nothing about my buddy Willie. He's my buddy. And he's always, I say, Willie, I need to talk to him. I called the other day and I said, Willie, I need to talk to him about this little girl. He said, 9 o'clock, be here.
Hey, John.
You're the one's got to go. I don't.
But yeah, but you're holding back this.
My driver's standing back here.
Thank you, John.
All right, good to see you.
We'll hope to see everyone up there Sunday.
Thank you, Willie. All right. What, I forgot that. Thank you, Willie.
All righty.
Thank you, John.
Don't go down the stairs in that thing,
Merry
John.
Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas. Okay,
Appreciate your time.
our next item is at 9:15, so it's only 30 minutes late. That's not bad, is it, Teresa? Teresa Kahn, Upshur County resident, review procedures for Upshur County emergency medical service transport. And before we let her start talking, I'm going to ask Willie if he'll just kind of reiterate what our role is in the medical emergency service and EMS.
As I understand the statute, the county commission's obligated to provide ambulance services, and we do that through the Upshur County Emergency Medical Services. They are just as Ms. Kahn knows, I'm sure, but for the public in general and the press, they are a separate entity, completely under control of a board of directors. We really have no authority or management responsibility at all. But our connection is we're required to provide the services, and we do that through that organization. And I understand there's some concerns about some procedures. I know we have some representatives and possibly legal counsel here with the Upshur EMS. And this case, I don't know what case or if we're talking particulars or anything, but I do know there's a legal situation ongoing, so just to caution the commission in that regard. So.
Good morning. Thank you so much for allowing me to come here. Thank you, Mr. Parker. Thank you, commissioners. I'm not here in a legal regard. I'm here to play on your compassion. I'm going to play out a scenario, and I want you, every time I say patient, I want you to think that it's Laura Lee or Cindy or Mary that I'm referring to. And just let me play this out, and then we'll see where we go from there. On 11/28, a patient presented at a physician's office. She had a huge abscess. Where the abscess was located, and I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to be very technical with this, but where the abscess was located, it required a very specialized treatment in order to save this woman's life. Literally, I am not being overdramatic. We called for transport. The physician's office called for transport, and just to have the patient transported to UHC. The reason the patient needed to go to UHC is because the patient needed a vascular surgeon and an infectious disease. The woman at the time was stable, but in a lot of pain. In addition to the fact, the high fever that she was running was causing her to be delirious. So transport by car was not recommended. We needed to get her in a safe environment and get her to UHC, to the doctors who were waiting to take care of her. When we called for transport, they called back. Now typically, you have a doctor's orders. A doctor's orders should prevail over all else. They called back and said that they could not transport her to UHC, that they would have to take her to the local facility, which was St. Joseph's Hospital. The question was raised by the physician, do they have a vascular surgeon or do they have an infectious disease? And Rick Campbell replied, that's the gentleman that called, that he didn't know. And he says, well, I can tell you they don't. And right now, we don't have time to go to another facility after I've already stabilized her and need her to be transported to the care that she needs urgently. He continued to say it was fraud. Now, where does fraud play in here, I'm not sure, and I can't question, but he said it was fraud, that he could not take her to UHC, he had to take her to St. Joseph's. Now, what would happen at St. Joseph's is, another doctor would have to assess her, a very competent doctor, I'm sure, in their ER. He would assess the fact that they do not have the technicalities to take care of this patient. They don't have the specialists to take care of this patient. So transport would have to be arranged again to UHC. Now the problem being, the hour or whatever time it took for this second assessment, the patient didn't have that time. She needed to be under care of a physician immediately. She had 103.5 fever. She needed to be where she could be taken care of. So we got a second call, which was really kind of confusing. And when he called back, he kept saying that, of course, it was fraud, and it was a comfort level, a comfort level. Now, when you become a first responder, you have to have that comfort level. You have to be able to handle anything you come against. If the victims of Hurricane Sandy had first responders that said, I'm not comfortable taking care of you, I'm going to move on down and take this ambulatory patient, where would we be in this country? We have to have people on our first responders who are capable to take a doctor's orders, because they are not doctors, and do as the patient needs. Now again, I'm imploring you to think that this is one of your loved ones that's laying in the balance. She was assessed by a doctor's orders were being questioned. She needed immediate attention. In fact, once her family drove her, and my husband took the liability because he had to, because he couldn't stop and drive her. He had other patients to attend to. Drove her up there. She was in emergency surgery that afternoon, wanted to be with us this morning, and she's still not well enough to come and be with us this morning. I do have her daughter with us, Janet Fisher. She's willing to answer any questions that you have for her of how this transpired, because she was there. She and her sister. To mention, her sister has worked many, many years on the EMS in Webster County. She was appalled. She had never heard of such a thing, a comfort level. This is fraud. She couldn't believe that her mother was down to a bottom line and not a patient that needed transport. That's why I came to you today. I didn't come to you because this is an attack on the EMS. It's not. It's not an attack on any one individual. It's not any of those things. My question to you is, in our county, with an EMS that is subsidized by you, I understand, though you don't control it, it's controlled by a board, but it does receive a certain amount of your subsidy to operate. Do we want them to have their own set of checks and balances that literally don't check or balance anything? I mean, if it were Laura Lee laying on the gurney and needed to go, what would your concern be, Donnie? I mean, what would it be? Would it be, oh, it's fraud to go from this hospital to that hospital, or would it be get her where she can be treated? Because that was our only concern. When I called the president of the board, and again, I'm not attacking anyone. And I'm sure you know who the president of the board. She's with us here this morning. First, she said, which I respected very much, I'd like to look into it and get back to you. That was fair. I understood that. I appreciated that. She called me back just within minutes, which again, I was like, this is wonderful. She understands that this is very, very important. Her only problem was the EMS, Mr. Rick Campbell, kept saying that the physician hung up on him. The physician hung up on him. She says, he said that Dr. Kahn hung up on him. That's the only thing she was concerned about, not, is the patient okay? Is the patient been transported? Do we need to do anything at this point? It was Rick Campbell said that Dr. Kahn hung up on him. I asked you to get the tape. And she kept saying, please get the tape and review this. Coincidentally, I got the tape. It's here if you all want to hear it. It's totally up to you. The entire progression is on here, everything that was said. And it's very clear. I don't want to bias you, but when the tape ends, it ends abruptly in the middle of my husband's sentence. So if he were the one to hang up, why did the recording stop in the middle of his sentence? And again, why is that our priority? Is our priority not the woman with the 103 fever that is about to go septic and die? That a doctor needs to get immediate attention to? That is our priority. I mean, yes, we have to follow the rules, and yes, they have to have guidelines and bylines that govern their franchise. I appreciate that. I don't want to go against that. But I'm saying if it's my mother laying there, I want them to have the ability to say, this patient needs to go to UHC, let's get them to UHC, or get them to Morgantown, or get them to Charleston. There's no preferential treatment. Get them to where they can be treated. That's my concern. And if this were an isolated incident, I probably wouldn't be standing before you. But this has happened on many and many occasions. It's just that this one, and Janet can attest, was right down to the wire. We did not have minutes to waste.
I'd like to hear the tape myself.
It needs to be played on a computer.
We can listen to, I think we need to review the tape.
Okay.
How long is the tape? Can you leave it with us?
It's just the 3 conversations, so it lasts maybe, what, 5 or 6 minutes? I mean, it just needs, according to Mr. Linger at EMS, or at 911, it needs to be played on a computer.
I mean, I think in this situation, I don't know what the rules and regulations are, but to waste more time taking them to St. Joseph Hospital, if they don't have someone up there that can help the person, you're paying twice.
Again, not even something I consider, but yes, again, the patient would be paying twice.
And then you're incurring extra expenses. And I think the next situation, as I know it now, I'd call Jan Care and have them pick them up.
Well, Jan Care right now is they're inundated for some unknown reason, and they say in this part of the county, or this county, in the part of their region that they transport, they can't respond to us. I mean, they can, but it takes like an hour and a half. Our patient didn't have an hour and a half. That's why we didn't want to send them up to St. Joseph's to be assessed again by an ER surgeon, because that's the rules. We know the rules. You know, we can't send her up there and say, just send her on. We know that their doctors would have to assess her. So, you know, she didn't have that time.
Understanding, there is a section on the back of the form that they have you sign when an ambulance picks you up, that you can waive stopping at the nearest facility to go to the facility that you need. and we were willing to sign that.
Okay. Do we have someone from the emergency squad who would like to speak at this time?
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is J.T. Hodges. I'm an attorney in Fairmont, West Virginia with the firm of Hodges and Riffle. My background actually is in fire and emergency medical services. I've been an EMT, a paramedic for many years. I'm not presently certified as one. I've been president of a county rescue squad and am familiar with a lot of the regulations that a county squad would have to deal with, and also I have represented one county commission dealing with their county EMS agencies, and have worked with several others in several other counties. So I guess you could say this isn't my first rodeo when it comes to things like this. I haven't been into this for a long time. We've just gotten information. We got a request for information from the State Office of Emergency Medical Services, and I've worked on putting together information, have submitted some preliminary information to them, and also to Dr. Newman, who is the county medical director, or the regional medical director. And we're in the process of responding to that as well. I don't have a copy of the woman's medical record, and I understand your concerns. I haven't heard it play out quite like Mrs. Kahn laid it out here this morning. I've listened to that tape, and I would invite you to do so as well. I don't know where this process will go along the way, but my review of this so far is the call to the 911 center was for a person with general illness, not an emergency call, so to speak. Rick Campbell did, in fact, call Dr. Kahn's office several times from the squad, got no answer, called back through the 911 center, got an answer. That's why you have the recordings that you do, because he needed to talk to somebody. My understanding, as I listened to the recordings, is that Dr. Kahn has said the squad refused to transport. And that's the allegation, really, is the squad refused to transport. They didn't. They agreed to transport to St. Joe's. We didn't hear the detail, as Ms. Kahn related a few moments ago, in any of the communications I've seen so far that indicated that this situation was nothing, there was anything life-threatening. Dr. Kahn's own responses to Rick don't indicate that it was a life-threatening situation. He said that she had an abscess near her vasculature. She needed to be in a place where she could get surgery. Said she was stable. She was sitting in a wheelchair. That she did have a temperature of 103. The problem that you run into with transports is that everything has to be medically necessary from a standpoint of being able to fill out the information and submit it for billing purposes. Almost everything now for Medicare purposes requires, or Medicaid purposes as well, requires that somebody sign a medical necessity form at the time that it needs to be done. Dr. Kahn did not indicate that he would sign that medical necessity form. So he may want to order the transport, but he could have shut down the whole thing saying it's medically necessary, she needs to go by emergency ambulance transport. Okay? And that's yes.
Excuse me, is that something the doctor would suggest, or is that a question that someone from EMT would say, is this medically necessary?
I would think that...
Who would initiate that aspect?
I would think the doctor would have precedence over anyone else.
I know that's the way it seems. We ought to have a lot more control over what happens. If a doctor calls and says, I need somebody transported so-and-so, well, that's great, but the problem is that Medicare determines medical necessity based on what you see at the time you see it and the information that's presented. They could refuse the call, reimbursement for the call. That wasn't Rick's overriding concern. He was willing to transport. And the question was, St. Joe's for somebody who, close transport, as opposed to taking an ambulance out of the county for something that may not have been medically necessary. She was stable, by Dr. Kahn's own words, by Mrs. Kahn's words. The other thing about Dr. Khan is he used to be the squad's medical director, so he should be familiar with emergency medical requirements and the things that they run into. And, you know, as a doctor who's talking to a paramedic, it's very easy to say, this is a medically required transport. This person needs to go by ambulance. It's an emergency. And I didn't hear that in the conversations. So that's my take on listening and responding to this point in time. I'm sure there's more information. From my standpoint, I always like to look at medical records. I'd love to see them. I don't know where this will go, you know, but I wanted to be here this morning to be able to kind of, you know, provide what information I could. And I'd be glad to come back and talk to the commission. Now, I've talked with Rick Janet about squad's transport procedures. We're providing that information to Dr. Newman as well. And if there's any way that we can deal with situations like this in the future, we're going to look at that and try to make it so that it's more clear, where there's a way, for example, we need you to say it's medically necessary. And it's still subject to Medicaid, but if or Medicare or Medicaid regulations. But if somebody signs on the dotted line, and that even comes down to patients being transported from their homes at times. That's the problem that we run into.
What is just a question, let's say I get sick and call the emergency, call 911, tell them I need an ambulance, but I don't want to go to St. Joseph's, I don't want to go to Stonewall, I want to go to Clarksburg. Will you take me there, or do I have to go to a local hospital first?
Our requirements are to take to the most medically appropriate facility based on what you're dealing with, who can provide that care that you need for that emergency.
If they can't provide the care,
that's the key. I didn't mean to interrupt, but that is the key. It's the care that you need.
Right, but the question is it medically necessary for an emergency ambulance transport? If you get sick, they come to take care of you, you'll end up being transported. Unless you're standing out on the street corner with your suitcase, which we've had a lot of patients do as well. Who used to
my
use it as
understanding that St. Joseph Hospital could not handle this situation. I've taken to St. Joseph Hospital.
I understand that's the information that was related, but also know that the patient was stable enough to sit in a wheelchair. And
pay for a trip to St. Joseph Hospital, then pay for a trip to Clarksburg. Doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense to me.
I appreciate it. I understand where you're coming from.
Well, so you're saying that if Dr. Khan had said the words, it's a medical emergency, then they would have been transported?
I think it would have been a much easier situation to deal with at that point in time. The communications would have been clear. This is a medical emergency. This lady needs to go right now by ambulance. I didn't hear that. And that's certainly a decision that a doctor very clearly is entitled to make.
Well, I guess the question is, did Dr. Khan call and ask for an ambulance to go to Clarksburg?
He did.
What's the difference between that and saying it's a medical emergency?
There are lots of people, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I mean, if a doctor calls through a comm center and calls emergency squad and said, I have a patient that needs to go to Clarksburg. I need an ambulance transport to Clarksburg for this patient. What's the difference between that and saying it's a medical emergency? I mean, isn't that basically what you're saying if the doctor calls?
With the physician already knowing that St. Joseph can't handle the situation because they don't have the people there to handle it.
There are lots of situations. See that, and that's why this is difficult to sit down and discuss in a very short period of time, because of the complexity of the regulations that you have to deal with and what you're looking at. There are emergency medical transports and there are non-emergency medical transports. The squad does emergency medical care, not non-emergency care, not non-emergency transports. And that's what it boils down to. Do you take away an emergency ambulance from the county to do a non-emergency transport when, you know, somebody's here at the courthouse and has a heart attack and needs transported, and a crew is out of county transporting somebody who didn't medically qualify for an emergency transport? You know, that's the trade-off. That's the problem that you run into.
Some of the policies we're talking about, that boils down to a policy. And it's a medical decision. It's also rules, regulations, policies that come into this. Are those dictated by the hospital, or are those dictated, say, by Medicaid, Medicare? Who would dictate those particular procedures?
Medicaid, Medicare have their rules in place. The hospital doesn't really have any rules per se that, and then the State Office of Emergency Medical Service also has some requirements. And then the Board of Directors for the squad. So there are ways to deal with some of these issues.
Overall, it's their requirement that, would it be fair to say, I'm not familiar with the procedures, but is it fair to say that they are the ones that then promulgate the instruction or the policy that you take someone to the nearest facility?
That's correct. I mean, there are a lot of rules in the medical.
Unless the doctor says critical necessity or whatever.
If those words would have come out of the doctor's mouth, I think that would have been a much clearer situation. That's my take on the situation for having been doing it since '73.
Well, just from
May
a...
I rebut this?
Go right ahead.
First of all, my question is, why did Rick Campbell not come and assess the situation for himself if he had a comfort level he had to fulfill? I mean, I appreciate that, okay, and he has his guidelines that he has to follow. But he's doing all this by phone as opposed to just coming and seeing for himself what the situation was, A. B, Rick Campbell is not a physician. So, you know, it's a wordplay. A physician calls and says, we need this patient taken to where she can get treatment, but because he didn't say medically necessary, obviously it's medically necessary. As you said yourself, he was the director of the squad for 12 years. Do you think that he would tie up an ambulance if he didn't need the ambulance? I mean,
I can't respond to that. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sorry, but I mean, all
I can agree that
legalities and all regulations and everything aside, this is ludicrous that we're going to sit back and use just a general catch-all, I'm not comfortable, when somebody's life lays in the balance. And like I said, this isn't an isolated incident, but I'd very much like for Mrs. Fisher to have an opportunity to speak to you as well. Because that's what's wrong. We've got to put names and faces to these things. I mean, we can stand here and quote regulations, Medicare. We all know Medicare regulations are difficult. I mean, every time you all go to the doctor, you jump through hoops, do you not?
But if I had an emergency situation, and I want to go somewhere, the last thing I'd be thinking about who the hell's going to pay for it.
Well, you know, but that as the patient's prerogative, okay? If the patient was facing a bill, we would have to turn that over to the patient. You know, we may have to say, you may have to pay more. But the family already stated they were more than willing to do that. But again, nobody responded to even find out what the situation was.
May I speak?
Sure, go ahead.
If she was that sick, we do have emergency facilities here at St. Joseph's Hospital. Why could she not have been transported to St. Joe's? If she's that sick, an ambulance ride is a lot longer than being flown. That's my next question. If she was that sick and unstable, then why? Why go to UHC when we have St. Joseph's Hospital up on the hill, who we have competent doctors? If she was that sick, she should have been in the ER and she should have been flown. Flying takes shorter time to get to where she needs to be than be putting on an ambulance to be transported.
If she'd been put into the ambulance, I'm sorry for interrupting, if she'd been put in the ambulance at 8:28 when the call came, she would have been to Clarksburg before she could have been transferred to St. Joe's, assessed by a very competent doctor. When they realize they don't have what they need for her, then a life flight has to be called, and then she has to be sent on. Not only does that take more time, that is undue stress on a patient who is already very sick.
Well, Dr. Kahn knew in advance that St. Joseph Hospital did not have
He did, and he quoted
what
it
was
right from the
needed for
tape.
this patient. Right, ma'am?
The reason she was not transported by ambulance to Dr. Kahn's office is we live in Webster County. It would have took an hour to an hour and a half, at least, to have gotten an ambulance to us. Then another hour, or at least 45 minutes to get to St. Joe's. So I brought her myself.
Rick, can you hear her?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you end up transporting her to Clarksburg in a vehicle?
Yes, sir, I
Is that
did.
what happened?
I had to have two of my brothers help me place her in the vehicle.
And she was in tremendous pain. I mean, there's a lot of situations that make it medically necessary, and a patient's pain level and the trauma to the patient is among those.
Well, from someone that doesn't understand how all this works, and I know there's regulations in everything you do today, but if, let's say we have the two situations. We have Dr. Kahn that's made an assessment, called for an ambulance to be taken to UHC hospital. Let's say that her mother would have been taken to St. Joseph's. Then would there have been a doctor that would have made an evaluation there?
They would have to.
And then that doctor could have possibly have said, this individual needs to be transported by ambulance to UHC hospital because we don't have the medical expertise here?
Which is exactly what the physician questioned to Mr. Campbell on the tape. Does St. Joseph's Hospital have a vascular surgeon? Does St. Joseph's Hospital have an infectious disease? To which Mr. Campbell, who is up in the echelon of our EMS system, said, I don't know. So he's insisting on taking them to a hospital that he doesn't even know would have the care or not. So he's disputing something he openly admitted he didn't know. And my husband said to him, I can tell you, sir, they do not.
But I guess my question is, and you know, you hear this a lot from people, that you go to, whether it's St. Joseph's or local hospital, and then, and I don't know what percentage of the cases are handled there and what percentage of the cases are transported onto Clarksburg, Charleston, Morgantown, or whatever. But you hear a lot of people, and there again, I know probably a lot of us are red tape, they'll go to a local hospital and they'll be there for a number of hours, and then they'll go on to some other hospital. And I assume the purpose of that is so they can be evaluated there as to whether they can be treated there.
Absolutely. And I mean, and that's fair.
It's also whether they are stable enough for transport.
Right.
That's the concern.
Well, then
is the stability of the individual. And that's one of the things that the squad is concerned about, that the person is stable for transport.
Okay, here's my question. What would be the difference if Dr. Kahn made that evaluation and made the decision that an ambulance was needed to go to Clarksburg, or if a physician at St. Joseph's made it?
That's what we're questioning.
What's the difference in two different doctors making that decision as to whether the emergency squad then feels that's a valid recommendation to them to take them in ambulance?
The question comes down to whether it's an emergency transport or a non-emergency transport, and whether the resources are available immediately to be able to make a transport like that. Whether you leave the county unprotected or whether it's protected.
But
I would think the
let's say
physician would know that.
No, I think somebody at the squad has to make the determination at that point in time. The doctor can certainly indicate what he's saying. The squad can say, for this medical emergency, we can take to UHC or we can take to St. Joe's. But are they stable? Are they not stable? Are they safe enough to transport to that facility?
But then are there times then the emergency squad questions the medical personnel at St. Joseph's and says, yeah, you say this is a medical emergency, but I'm saying it's not? You're saying that's the case?
Yes, we do question doctors at St. Joseph's also.
So the ultimate decision is in the hands of the emergency squad. Is that what you're saying? Not in the hands of the doctor? Is that what you're saying, Rick?
No. I'm saying that we have to be sure that patient is stable enough and we have the resources to handle that. I mean, there's different levels of care. There's BLS, basic life support, and advanced life support. And they fall into those two categories.
But I guess the question is, though, does the doctor make the determination as to whether they need to be transported to another hospital, or does the emergency squad have a part in that? Are there times that you would say to a doctor at St. Joseph's, no, we're not going to transport, you have to deal with them here?
We have to go by protocols through the regional system, through the medical director. They give us the information on how to make sure we're transporting the people correctly. And there's certain medications that we cannot transport that has to be flown and/or a nurse has to be with us. So that makes a difference.
Yeah, there are times the squad would not be able to transport a patient unless the hospital were to provide additional considerations or a helicopter they may be able to transport from the hospital building to the helicopter.
But the doctor makes that determination as to what those needs are.
Yes, but we also,
We have state protocols that have to be followed in that situation. A doctor can write an order for a medication that nobody can transport but the doctor himself. So he's either going to have to go with us or that medication, or we can't take that patient.
And the reasoning behind that, in a simple
The
explanation.
reason behind that is because the paramedic or the EMT is not qualified to monitor the patient receiving those medications, or it's beyond the skill level of the person. And that's what the state medical requirements have evolved to over time. When I got into this business back in the 70s, I worked for a funeral home who provided ambulance service before squads got started. It didn't make any difference what kind of call it was. You called us, we took them. That's the way it worked. The only problem there was, say we had one person on the ambulance, somebody to drive you fast from one hospital to another. Wasn't the best system. This thing's evolved significantly since that point in time, but with that has come the complexity that everybody is faced with from the standpoint of the medications that are out there, the way people are treated over time, the level of, I guess, complexity of the equipment that everybody has to deal with, but also the degree of difficulty dealing with different medications and different medical conditions.
And also the degree of liability.
I'm sure liability is factored into it somewhere, but from the standpoint of me transporting somebody from one hospital to another, I have to be able to comply with what are known as the state's inter-hospital transport protocols. And if they don't fall into a protocol somewhere, then I, as the EMS provider, have to be able to tell the hospital and the doctor, I'm sorry, it doesn't fit this protocol, we can't do this because. So the doctor may say it's medically necessary, but if it doesn't fit our protocols and we can't do it, then our hands are tied.
And if the patient is Medicaid or Medicare, there are concerns on reimbursement, I presume,
The concern
if
is
you don't follow the protocol.
That's correct.
What if someone calls Jan Care? Do
They face this. They are subject to the same requirements, although Jan Care does non-emergency transports as well. And for that, they've got a different set of rules that they follow because Medicare, Medicaid, the insurance companies all differentiate between emergency and non-emergency.
I think you started to say something there a few minutes ago. Can you come up and,
For what?
you said something about the back of the form, you could sign off on the back of the form to,
Yes, I have, my sister worked for Upshur County EMS for years. I have a nephew right now that works for Charleston Area Medical Ambulance. And he also reassured me that there is a section on the back of the form that you can sign waiving any responsibility for them from passing one hospital going to another.
but we did not refuse the transport. We said that we would transport her.
But not where she needed to go.
I guess,
would caution the commission at specific instances to avoid specific cases. Talk about policies, procedures, fine. I would not talk about specific cases.
well, we'll listen to the tape, and it sounds
I
like,
would caution against that also. That is a specific case out of your control and authority.
well, but it has to do with procedures.
And a specific case as it relates to an ongoing situation. You can do whatever. That's my recommendation.
Well, I think that we've kind of listened to both sides, and what we'll do, we'll take into consideration what our role is, Teresa, and we would just encourage all the parties involved to, and I'm not saying that they don't, but patient care is the top priority, and I know, like you said, if it's my wife or my mother or my close relative, it's a lot more important to me than it is to anyone else. And I'm sure there's competent and caring people that work at the emergency squad and all the different hospitals. but there's always situations that there's two sides to. And I guess really our role is to listen to the public and listen to concerns and provide opportunities for those that the concerns are expressed against. And I think that's about our role today, and hopefully we provided that forum for discussion. And I agree with our secondary legal counsel over there, Mr. Parker. And at this point, I think we better probably end the discussion. But we certainly are glad to provide an opportunity for people to discuss their concerns and make it known.
I would like one additional.
Go ahead.
Early on, when you were making your presentation, Mrs. Conn indicated the county does, in her words, subsidize the emergency medical service. Mr. Parker, could you please explain that so the public understands what our financial commitment is to the emergency squad?
To my knowledge, the only commitment or financial backing or in-kind service we provide is the facility they're in. We do own the facility that they're located in, which they do not pay any type of rent or fee for, and we do the maintenance or upkeep on some of the projects that and the emergency personnel also have done improvements to the facility with their own staff. So one of their employees is on our payroll a number of years ago before they had paid staff, but that's reimbursed. They reimburse the total cost that's associated with it. So
we act as a pass-through, processing the payroll.
Processing for that one individual.
But the monies are not county funds per se.
That's reimbursed 100% from EMS. So really the only contribution per se that the county has is the facility and whatever capital improvements we make over.
Maintenance and whatnot.
Maintenance to that, whether it be a roof or gutters or whatever.
Well, they had a fire several years ago. We repaired the facility.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Can I say one final
Sure,
thing?
go right ahead.
I do want to thank you very much for listening, and I understand that we can't look at an isolated case or at one particular case, but it's not an isolated case. So that's why I'm nervous about this. And the reason I'm imploring you to think about it is there a possibility that we could possibly privatize, give another opportunity for there to be more than one game in town, so the board of directors doesn't answer to their own, everybody in the board of directors has been a member of the squad forever. I mean, I appreciate that makes them knowledgeable, but does that also give them the ability to not see things as clearly? So my reason for coming to you and pouring this out was, to play on your sympathy. This is something that serves our community, and we have to be community-minded. I'm not attacking them personally. I'm just asking. We've got to have a better recourse of action. So when it is Laura Lee, this doesn't happen. Thanks.
Thank you, Teresa.
Teresa?
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Okay,
And Mom has an appointment, so we got to go.
Thank you.
but can we take a 5-minute recess, Frank? You can have a cup of coffee, Judy.
Oh, my God. You people had a recess all week.
There you go. Just like
Have a
Washington.
hard bargain, I think, girl.
God, I thought I walked into Obama's room. He's going to Hawaii.
When I was,
It's a job.
raise that down, lower that hand.
Raise that hand.
Okay, we're back from our little recess, and we have Frank Fado, Upshur County resident, to review floodplain matters in the Brushy Fork area. So Frank, if you'd like to step up to the podium, we'll give you the floor.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. First of all, we're glad, just like the rest of the community, to have the Armory located in Upshur County. And we're looking forward to being a good neighbor. But we have some concerns, and it goes back to a floodplain issue that we addressed some time ago. When the outer mall, the cinema, and the junkyard was filled in there, we had some concerns that eventually might affect us. Okay, we have a community with 70-some people in a mobile home community, and it's very low lying land. Now, currently, we're not in a floodplain. But as you displace water, it's only natural that at some point it's going to affect us. And of course, where the armory is going now, as everyone knows, part of that is in the floodplain. All we're looking for is some assurance from the county commissioners and also the Army Corps of Engineers that their project, okay, will not cause any harm, any plain issue as far as flooding to our mobile home community. And I'm sure that, the federal government has high standards, and they will grant us that privilege. And so we would like to ask you to please help us in that.
Well, it's my understanding, and we have our floodplain manager with us this morning, in a situation like that, isn't there an engineering study that has to be completed that basically addresses that issue?
Well, what I can say in response to Mr. Beto is I have the exact same concern as what he's expressed himself. And I have been working with the Army Corps of Engineers and the West Virginia Army National Guard representatives, and they are changing the scope of their project out there. There will be no fill placed within the identified flood hazard area, and for that reason, it should not adversely affect any property owners in that community, anywhere along the Brushy Fork. So, I had the same concerns that Mr. Beto had, and as we work through this, I do not have those concerns now. I mean, the water runoff is going to naturally be the water that's going to come off of the area where the armory is going to go. It's going to naturally flow into the Brushy Fork. Is there something that can say 100% it'll never affect anybody? Well, absolutely not. But with their change of plan and their change of scope that they're going to be doing now, I don't foresee it to be any problem whatsoever on the county's behalf.
So you're saying, Terry Jo, is there's no disruption of the existing floodplain or elevation
Correct.
or anything along those lines?
Correct.
No filling whatsoever in the floodplain area?
There will not be any fill along the identified flood hazard area, no sir. And where the armory is actually going to be is out of the flood zone. It is not in the flood zone.
Frank, you'd indicated in the past when other construction further up the Brushy Fork had occurred that you'd raised a similar issue. I presume you were given assurances then that nothing would happen? Did anything happen from that point?
It was a big issue at the time. The county commission and the city did not want to get involved in this issue. Subsequent to that, FEMA mandated that local communities, supervise this or enforced it, which has gotten a lot better. But the fact remains that at that time, where the Outer Mall is now, the cinema and other, whenever there was an overflow of flooding, you had water coming over for the Hampton Inn is now, water coming in from our mobile home community. Mike Ross's property will converge in that area. So that whole area is was like a pond. Now, I presented pictures to the commission. Now, that water's been displaced. Granted, we're down far enough that it did not cause an immediate flooding. But as you gradually start filling that area up, it's going to have some effect. Last time we had some heavy rains, I see that the stream was starting to back up a little bit. Of course, the stream needs to be cleaned out. Perhaps the Army Corps of Engineers can help us in that. So when the water flows from Mike Ross's properties and congregates in that one area, it doesn't back up. If you're willing to give us that in writing, it would be appreciated. And if the county can perhaps dredge the stream, that would help also.
Well, I know that discussion has taken place in the past as far as exactly how that works as it comes out of Brushy Fork. But it seemed to me like that the conclusion there was that actually what was making it back up was the river itself. It's been a while since we've had that discussion. I don't know if anyone else remembers it, but it seemed to me like that the problem is that's coming down out of there, it's coming up against the Buchanan River. So as the Buchanan River comes up, and the force of that is what doesn't allow that to drain out as fast as you'd like for it to.
The guy that has the automobile, I presented an engineer there. Okay, you have water coming in for the Hampton area. Now, the Hampton, where the Hampton is now, has been filled in also. Okay, that water that used to lay there is going to have to go someplace. Now, as the water come through there, and also from our part where the mobile home community is, the low-lying area will be filled with water. Okay, irregardless whether we had a flood in Buchanan. So, with that area being filled up, the water is being displaced. Okay, it's either going to go to Buchanan or towards us. Now, if it's elevated, the water is coming down from my area. Okay, it's not going to be flowing smoothly, or doesn't have an area where it can spawn, so to speak. So that remains to be seen. But his engineer said it will affect them minimally at this, at this point in time.
And that's the purpose of that engineering study, to say.
Well, his own engineer. It wasn't,
Right.
It wasn't the governor authorities. At the time, everyone washed their hands out of it. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why we have a junkyard down there. Perhaps at that time, the commission, somebody should have reacted to that.
Well, now, wait a minute. What you're calling is the junkyard. The reason that junkyard's there is because the city annexed it. The county had no say whatsoever in the salvage yard, because it was annexed into the city, and that took it out of the purview of the county.
I stand to be corrected on that, but still an eyesore.
Right. Well, I'm sure you'll have others that would agree with that. Go ahead,
If
Jerry.
I can just give a little bit more background history on that area. The development that Mr. Beto is speaking of, FEMA has recognized that. That's the reason we do have new flood maps, and most all of Upshur County is in what is considered an approximate A zone, which means there's no base flood elevations that have ever been established by FEMA. And a portion of the area that he is speaking of, they have done a study now, and it is in an AE zone with base flood elevations. So those maps have changed from just a few years ago to what currently is there now. So FEMA has already addressed the concerns with the development and the fill and things that have taken place with those different businesses, and that's the reason we have the new flood maps that we do that reflect that, how far up the rushing forward the back water is going to rise. I mean, that's what's showing on those new flood maps as we speak.
But as far as you're concerned with the armory and the construction there.
No, we have no qualms with none whatsoever. The only concern is what I just said here.
Right.
I mean, we're looking forward to being good neighbors, and I'm glad they're going to give us that assurance in writing. And it's federal government, I'm sure they want to stay on the highest standard.
Right.
So if you can get that for us, we appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll do that. Thanks a lot.
I don't know if that stream will ever be dredged, but I wish it would be dredged, because that would help our property out there too that we have. Get that water somewhere else, and somebody else can complain about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, if we can get the federal government to do that, I mean, that'd be nice. They have the
Yeah, their equipment there.
equipment. It's in their own best interest too.
Right.
Who would you ask to do that? The equipment's already there. I mean, what would you do?
Well, there may be regulations that prohibit it from being dredged, but so many environmental restrictions on property, private property or public property that, again, I'm not an expert, but certainly, but there may be reasons you can't just go in there and, as I recall, several years ago, there's a private business that dredged a creek or whatever next to their business, and we're told later to fill it back in, otherwise you'd be, subject to criminal penalties by the EPA and whatnot. So, what many times appears to be a commonsensical response or solution is contrary to established law.
Contrary to the
I
government.
couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, well, thanks for coming in, and we're catching up now. So we have Gary Rapking from W Extension Office to review procedure for hiring personnel. You talking about Craig?
Yeah.
Are you talking about Craig?
There's a whole job description. I don't think you need too much right now.
Thank you.
Well, good morning and Merry Christmas.
Good morning.
Merry Christmas to you.
We're fortunate in our office that this is new to me. I've been here longer than I realized when I stopped counting on my fingers. And we haven't had to replace county staff since I've been there, so that's a good thing. All of us wish we could reach that time when we can look at some things we dream about doing and move on with life. And Jill Bentley has reached that stage fairly quickly here. She's found out she's in a circumstance where she can do that. She's got a quilting business she wants to devote more time to, and to her, that's enjoyment. So she's looking forward to finding time to spend full time with her business. So I think you just got the letter probably just yesterday or whatever, she's planning to retire January 31st. And of course, that puts us in a difficult situation in our office, at least that's the way we see it. I would like to take a few moments to say how fortunate we have been to have Jill as our secretary and administrative assistant. You know this, that the first person that we meet when we go into an office, they pretty much determine for us how we feel about that office, whether it's by phone or whether it's a personal meeting. And obviously, we could not do any better than to have someone, or had to have Jill filling that position for 21 years. She represents us so well and so professionally, and we just want to thank her for the excellent job she has done for us and her devotion to her job. We realize how difficult it is. We do hope that this is a position that can be replaced. Craig and I were joking, but then we were afraid we weren't joking, that would be part of the debate. We do need this position filled, and obviously finding someone to do the things that Jill has done is going to be difficult, but obviously we all have to move on in life. So I'm here primarily just to know how to proceed, what your thoughts are. I passed out the job description. It hadn't been looked at for a year or two, and it probably is a little dated. There are some things we need to talk about. One that comes to mind with my fading memory, I want to make sure I get this in. We will be working more with web development, as all offices do. We're a little behind, or we're quite a bit behind with our office with that. So we do believe that the person would be hired for this, would be working some with web development and updating of the web, so that we're a little more up to the 21st century with what we're doing with our education programs.
Dated 1991.
Right, exactly.
A lot of changes in the technology.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, even our location is not accurate on it. So we need to look seriously at that. I don't expect this is the time to do it right this moment, but we don't have a whole lot of time to work with here. So however you want to approach it, but we appreciate moving it forward as quickly as we could. But that's the job description we have, dated as it is, and we just wanted some guidance on how we proceed with this. And one thing that, if it can be done, and maybe there just is no way to do this with this coming on us pretty quickly. We are a very diverse office, probably most offices are, but there's a lot of programs that go through that office, and Jill knows all those programs. There's some things she knows that no one else does. Mavis pretty much knows everything goes on there as well, which is a big help. I use them as encyclopedias. Craig was raised in this county and knows the county a little better, but I use them as my knowledge base for about everything. And so that's been very important for me in my job. But if there was any way that could be worked into a system where she could help with training, even coming back, that may be impossible, but that would be a great thing. That's just one thing I'd like to not, shy away from. If there was any way that it could be worked in, or has ever been done before, that would be helpful. She could come back for short periods of time, or maybe an hour or two at a time, and help the new person with training. But I think I'm going to stop there and see what your thoughts are and how you think we should proceed.
Well, I think we could, if you haven't already done so, Willie and Megan, look this over and make sure there's no changes here.
There'll be a lot of changes.
That's what I was thinking. But I think as far as advertising, going ahead and advertising, that process can go ahead and be started. You just need to be specific.
There's a couple questions that we would need answered. Is, do we continue full-time, or do we look at a part-time 35-hour a week, 37-hour a week situation? because that makes a difference of insurance benefits. So that's one discussion we would need to have sometime. And I've talked to Gary before about, the employer technically is the Upshur County Commission assigned to the Upshur County Cooperative Extension Service. And, we have some issues of meshing the policies of WVU with the
Exactly.
county.
Related to things like holidays, for example.
Yes, holiday.
Yeah.
And we haven't changed the current staff because they've operated under what they were hired at 1991 or before. So we have some issues like that to deal with. I won't mention Megan was asking what mimeograph materials were.
Yeah, if anything else dates it, that dates it, doesn't it? You can almost see the smudges on your fingers as you're reading it.
We did strike the section that talked about the carrier pigeons.
But like probationary period, we don't have really probationary.
Don't you?
period.
Okay.
It's an
Yeah.
at-will employment, but we can work through those and get back with you. And
Well, are we at the stage then where you'll work with this and then contact us as far as how to proceed once you've had better, longer time look at it?
Moving on this very quickly so we can get the advertisement started.
What's Jill's timetable when she retired?
31st of January, pretty quick.
Unless I missed it, I don't see the word computer on this anywhere at all.
Right.
Yeah, interesting, huh?
Spreadsheet, Excel, anything.
Well,
Those simple days, but they were not that bad, were they?
Not that bad.
Some muddled through.
Yeah, it's going to push me out the door pretty quick here because I cannot keep up. Well, I appreciate the time and appreciate the support you've given to us. That was another topic Craig and I had coming down here. We don't take for granted the support of the county commission or the county, this county. It doesn't happen like this in every county. We really appreciate you being behind us and trying to work with us, and it's really made our jobs so much easier. So if there's nothing else, well, I appreciate the time.
well, we'll expedite what we need to do, and then Willie will keep in touch with you, and you keep in touch with him.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, our next scheduled appointment is at 14:30.
Donnie,
Yes?
we have this gentleman back here would like to address us.
You want to address us now?
I'd rather just talk off the record just to you guys, because I'm not even up to where I'm at, where I want to go on this. I got something to bounce around a little bit.
Okay. All right, you bounce around in your head there, and we'll go ahead and take care of the rest of this. The first item is approved payment of $15,000 to Helen R. Phillips, Upshur County Assessor, for additional duties as delineated in West Virginia Code 7-7-6A. We have a letter from the State Tax Department that says this letter and attachment certify that Helen R. Phillips, Assessor Upshur County, has substantially complied with the assessor's additional duties. She's compiled too. As delineated in the West Virginia Code 7-7-6A, substantial completion of additional duties entitles Ms. Phillips to the additional compensation of $15,000. And we have a worksheet here, assessor's additional duties, substantial completion statement.
Do you have to receive all yeses in those boxes before you get the?
I don't know, there's one that doesn't have a yes mark.
I believe it was explained to me that that is not the case, but that you are reviewed by the state tax commissioner to ensure that that comes into compliance.
What comes into compliance?
That these stated duties are compliant with. That's what happened up in Mon County. Person would fill out, maybe didn't qualify all of them, but under law, you had to provide, the state had to provide the compensation, but then the following year, they would review to ensure that they were followed, but there'd be empty boxes the following year. So the person was avoiding, apparently, he was complying with the law, but he or she was not totally complying. In the case of Helen, I can't find that to be a case.
There's only one here that doesn't have yes or no, and I'm not sure if that was to be answered by yes or no, the way it's stated. Of course, it does say.
She does fill out a card there that says she'll fill out a space there.
Number of change card.
Yeah.
Well, basically, the way this works is the state tax department, and then previously that we had approved a additional amount for the assessor that came as evaluation from the Department of Agriculture. So is this the two, Willie? Is there just two? Is there this one?
Three. There's 3 supplements for the Office of Assessor.
So the ones from the Department of Agriculture on the farm census.
That's 10% of the base salary for our county,
Okay.
43,000 something.
Okay.
There's a $15,000 supplement for substantial completion as the additional duties. And then there's a 10% supplement for the collection of dog tax that goes to the assessor. 10% of that money goes to the assessor.
Okay.
It's approximately $22,000 total.
22,000 additional for, now, does the sheriff get additional? Yeah, the sheriff gets additional. Is that very similar?
Sheriff gets up to a $15,000 supplement based on the percentage of tax collections.
So it's pretty straightforward.
It's the form you fall into and collect this percent of taxes, and then, kicks out this number.
Right, if you collect less than that, then you collect less than the 15,000.
There's some counties that do get less, some sheriffs that do get less than 15,000. To my knowledge, Upshur County has always been, at a high enough, a very high percentage where this maximum supplement was reached.
Okay, any questions? Then, based on the recommendation from the state tax department, then we have a motion that we approve the $15,000 additional duty supplement for our assessor.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any questions or comments? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next item is approved community proclamation establishing James C. Kittle Day as on November 12th, 2012, originally signed in executive session on November 8th, 2012, on page 3, and we did that in executive session, so it would be a surprise when it was announced from the county commission and from the city of Buchanan. So do we have a motion to approve this proclamation?
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next item is approved termination notice of state of emergency issued by the Upshur County Commission, originally signed on November 21st, 2012. And the president was given the authority to sign that document, and I guess this is just to make it officially official. Would you say, Mr. Barker?
That could be one way of saying it.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the termination?
I'll move that.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approve and authorize the president to sign Upshur County Equal Employment Opportunity Program short form and related certification form. So would you like to explain those 10 pages and exactly what they mean in a condensed form?
I can do that rather quickly by asking Ms. Pomeroy to do that, because this is a project she worked on for us.
This is basically just a requirement that we have when we receive federal money through grants. We have to comply with the Equal Employment Opportunity by creating this plan. So we surveyed our employees in a voluntary survey. They responded and gave us their demographics. We compare that to the community's demographics just to make sure that we are not discriminating against employees based on race, creed, sex. So we did that, put together this program which is available for review in the Commissioner's office.
And the Department of Justice made certain recommendations on hiring. Certain
Correct, yeah.
classifications.
Once we got our percentages, we looked at whether there's any significant underutilization, and then we had to list steps that we would take to correct that.
We're in compliance, however, across the board.
Yeah, if we did have any underutilization, it was very insignificant, maybe 1%. And since the survey was voluntary, we did not get a large amount of them back, maybe about 20%. So I would say that this is not entirely reflective also. So I think overall we're doing pretty well.
So it's mandatory for the employer, but it's voluntary for the employee.
Correct.
Okay, any other questions? If not, do we have a motion then to approve?
So moved.
Authorize the president. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next item is review request from M. Keith Queen, Upshur County Coroner, for reimbursement of expenses related to recertification. On page 16. As to Upshur County Commissioners, as the county coroner, I am required to recertify every 3 years. This class is put on by DHHR in conjunction with the Chief Medical Examiner's Office. This year, the class was held in Charleston, unlike other years where it was held in Flatwoods. With the county coroner position, no cost incurred by the county. We are paid per diem by the state, require no office space, supplies are either furnished by the state or purchased by myself, and no mileage recouped. This year, I've incurred a large expense in recerting and request the county commission to consider reimbursement of these expenses. I understand no money is in the budget for this fiscal year, but request a budget revision to include the following expenses. Registration, $200, an increase from last time $150, and hotel $211 for 4 nights, an increase from last time that I traveled back and forth. Meals and gas, $100 increase from last time lunch provided and evening meals were at home. Please consider this request, and I thank you in advance. So it looks like we have, what, $411? Is that about it?
Be 411 plus the meals and mileage.
Yeah, so the
Oh.
So you're looking at $500 to $600
Okay.
according to these numbers.
Okay. All right, what's the pleasure of the commission concerning this request?
I don't quite understand the evening meals were at home. Is that,
He's just charging for lunch. I think it was indicating there is.
does this go with the motel?
The last time when he was in Flatwoods, he traveled back and forth. Lunch was provided the previous.
So it's a different situation?
It's a different situation.
Okay.
This year he was in Charleston, so he had to stay. So
Yeah.
you're looking at, if lunch was provided, then, there's no issue there. But there would be evening meals included. So I don't know that answer. I would have to find that out. The next number of years to fully insured values. So it's important that the county continue their enforcement of the floodplain areas. The areas we were talking about earlier when Mr. Fado was here, there were some hydraulic and hydrology studies done that he referenced in those situations, and the maps have been revised as Ms. Bennett informed you. And as it relates to the Hampton Inn, et cetera, the city also has these requirements, but it's a different agency that's responsible for enforcement of the floodplain ordinances, whether it be the auto disposal or Hampton Inn, which are city properties. But yeah, the way I read this, as a homeowner, there's no good news in saying that rates are going to go down. It looks like rates will be going up 25% per year until they reach the full risk rate, as they call it. So.
But the other side of that coin is that if the county did not comply with FEMA rules and regulations, we would not be able to offer flood insurance to our county residents. It's a dual-edged sword. Once the federal government gets involved, there are restrictions and stipulations normally attached. And if there were to offer that service, that is flood insurance, to our citizens, we have to comply with the federal mandate and rules.
And it's definitely going to impact Upshur County because, like I said when Mr. Beto was here, we have very few areas that have an established base flood elevation. So almost all, I would say 99% of Upshur County is in an approximate A zone, which is their highest risk. So anybody currently who has flood insurance, their rates are going to go up. Anybody who wants to buy a house and if that mortgage company requires them to pay or have flood insurance, they're going to be starting right off the bat paying what the true actual value of replacement cost will be. That's something, I mean, it's kind of been coming down the pipe because when Greg was working with the commission and through this position, we had a lot of the mortgage companies that were requiring documentation to prove whether they were in or out of the flood zone. Well, we're still dealing with that. But this is going to definitely impact our county residents, and ultimately they're going to be coming back to the county because I know they're not going to understand. So I just wanted to make you all aware that they are definitely, starting January 1st, they're going to be changing some premiums on our county residents and insurance policies.
I'm certain that even though it's been several years, a part of that is the aftermath of Katrina.
Right.
And we're probably going to sustain similar adjustments in the future at some point as a result of the recent Hurricane Sandy, or Tropical Storm Sandy.
And with Upshur County and the number of actual flood insurance policies that we have, we're like not even on the list to even be considered for a study. I mean, they're going to deal with those coastal areas that keep being impacted, to actually do the studies and establish the base floods and then set the rules and regulations for their building codes. We won't have that happen here.
Right.
So that ultimately means our policy owners are going to be paying a substantial increase in premiums.
For the damages occurred in other geographical areas.
Yes, sir.
That's the way insurance works.
That is it.
2 people die, you have to pay more for your life insurance. Can you buy flood insurance from the regular private companies, or is the FEMA supposed to be cheaper, or is it a different type of insurance? Or?
Ultimately, it's all through the National Flood Insurance Program, so it's through FEMA, but you could go to like State Farm and they sell the policy there, as an example. I mean, there's other that are private companies, but it's ultimately always the same insurance through FEMA, through the National Insurance Program.
It's like FHA providing
Similar.
insurance
Yes.
for homeowners.
Very similar. And then ultimately, FEMA is the one that says, yes, your property's in, and yes, your property's out, so.
Okay, correspondence from Southern Link Communications regarding sale and transfer of cable franchise agreement. Southern Link selling to Nespresso Acquisition Corporation.
Evidently, they've completed that process.
There'll be no change in the existing holder of cable franchise. Southern Link is committed to investing the time, talent, and resource to provide cable services in the years ahead. We appreciate the opportunity to serve your community and look forward to continuing our positive relationship as a member of your community.
I think previous communications indicated that Nespresso in essence was Southern Link board members that privately acquired Southern Link. So it's the same individuals running the same operation under different corporate structure or legal entity. Must be an anticipation of something happening in the future.
All right, next item is State of West. Oh, go ahead.
Asking for their raise too?
Pardon?
Are they still asking for their raise?
Well, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. Sure they are.
But the city, I believe, oversees the administration of the cable board, cable board.
Save your money. They'll come to get it. Okay, State of West Virginia fact sheet for 2013 Bluestone Dam full-scale exercise. That was postponed because of some real emergencies this year, so the exercise will focus on 4 core capabilities: mass care, sheltering and feeding, citizen evacuation, operational coordination and incident management, and continuity of operations. So that's something we have to look forward to next year, is the exercise in case the Bluestone Dam erupts. So next item is Upshur County Sheriff's financial statement, page 29. Any comments on that, Mr. Barker?
Not unless there be questions. That's for October. We'll be getting November's within the next week or so.
And financial information for the general county fund. Any questions on that? Okay. Correspondence from Social Security Administration, change in office hours. They're going to reduce their hours, 30 minutes each weekday.
The post office is considering delivering mail only 5 days a week.
Well, my understanding of this is, even though they're going to reduce the 30 minutes a day they're open to the public, they're not going to reduce the hours that they pay people. So it's just a reduction in the service provided to the public.
And there's no indication they're going to reduce the staff.
Right. So
reducing 30 minutes, and then they're closing at noon on every Wednesday, beginning in January.
At a time when you have,
I'm sure that'll be a big savings.
well, that's at a time when you have 10,000 baby boomers a day retired.
That's right. Well, but you can go online and file your Social Security.
I've heard that.
I don't know. Has anybody tried that yet, Craig? You go online and file your Social Security yet?
I'm on Social Security, man.
Oh.
So you don't have to worry about the
Oh,
office
how time flies, doesn't it?
Sure does.
I guess JC will be next.
Not for a while.
Okay. And we have our agendas and meeting minutes and meetings and appointments. So we'll take a look at this after a while at our appointments and see if there's some, maybe some
Nominees.
we need to change, and maybe look for some new participants on some of these. So we'll take a look at that. Is there, you gentlemen have anything else?
Yes. The Salvation Army is still in need of bell ringers.
Bell ringers.
If you're interested in ringing the bell, you call Judy Butler at 472-6165 or Roberta Lynch at 613-7780, and she'll fix you right up. Thank you.
Bell ringers.
Bell ringers.
Willie, do you have anything else?
A lot of paperwork.
Terry Jo, I think, has something.
I do.
Why don't you come up here? Yeah, come on.
That's okay.
No,
I'll
come
just
on.
be brief.
Okay.
Just as a follow-up from what Mr. Fado had specifically asked for, was something from the commission or from me guaranteeing that his property was not going to flood. Obviously, I don't think
Cannot
that's something
guarantee.
that I can provide him, and I certainly don't have any intentions of providing him that. I do have 2 letters, though, one from the West Virginia Army National Guard, as well as their contractor, Paramount Builders, that has guaranteed the county in writing that they will not enter into the special flood hazard area. So if you would want, I will be more than happy to provide him with a copy of that. But I don't think that the commission would want me to provide him something in writing that guarantees that he's not going to ever flood.
It was my understanding that he wanted documentation that they weren't going to be filling in the floodplain. That was my understanding.
And I have that in these 2 letters.
Well, that'd be the thing
So
to
I'll
send to
provide
him.
him with a copy of that.
Very
That
good.
will suffice for what he's asked for then.
Right.
Okay.
That'll give
Terry
them
Jo,
what we
where is
have.
that construction company located? Paramount?
In St. Albans,
St.
West
Albans?
Virginia.
My only concern of giving him a guarantee is that after December 21st, we don't know what's going to happen, according to Mans. Impact here that
May not make
we might
any-
not recover.
May
It's fine.
not make any difference.
Right, exactly.
I don't think even FEMA, even your H&H analysis, nothing like that ever guarantees that somebody's not going to be impacted by flood.
Right.
That's a natural thing that happens,
Right.
but, I mean, he specifically asked the commission and then turned and asked me, so I just wanted clarification and to let you know that that is not something that I plan to get him, but I will provide him with a copy of the 2 letters that I do have with the building permit.
Right.
As they say, longstanding, only 2 guarantees in life, higher taxes, which we're finding, and death.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Okay, well, we will get started on our paperwork.